What the hell is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Rantin Review Entertainment. We are following up today with The Walking Dead, episode 23 from season 11, titled Family. Yes, it is the penultimate episode, the next to very last episode of the series, or the main series, aired on AMC Plus this past week. And I'm going to give a review on it, some of my reactions to some of the things that happened on the show, and some thoughts on where we're probably going for the series finale coming up in 2 weeks. It will not be aired early, by the way, on AMC Plus. It will be airing in 2 weeks at 9 p.m., the same time on AMC Plus that it's released on AMC and at a bunch of different fan events around the country, around the world, really. Everybody will be watching the final episode at 9 o'clock in 2 weeks. Which I think was really cool, because it's nice to get the AMC Plus stuff ahead of time, but ultimately to get the final episode and nobody being able to see it early, I think was a smart decision from AMC and for them to do it that way. But before we get into that, I want to remind you guys that after The Walking Dead is done, there will be things to deal with. We've got probably a very rough winter coming up for us. And if you want to get started in investing now that the stock market is down, now that crypto is down, you can check some of the links down in the description box below. You can get some free cryptocurrency from Coinbase, some free Bitcoin. You can get free stocks from Robinhood. You can get up to 12 free stocks from Webull by using the links down in the description box below. So definitely check some of that out. At the very least, you'll get $34 for free. So you might as well check it out and see what you can get free. But now let's talk about episode 23, which I thought this was a better episode. This is probably one of the best episodes of season 11, which isn't really saying much because there've been some okay episodes. But and I talked about this in my last review, overall, season 11 has been rather underwhelming. I'm going to wind up at the end of the day when the series is done, looking back on the whole series, and I'll probably watch the whole series again in about a year or two. To really make my final thoughts on this. But right now, I'm going to probably put it near the bottom of the seasons of The Walking Dead. And that's an unfortunate thing because they had 24 episodes to do a lot of stuff with, and they decided not to. So that is what it is. But at least the last couple of episodes, we have really ramped it up. Now, last week was that cool episode with Negan and Ezekiel standing up for Negan. And we get to see the fallout from that. Now that a lot of our group is together, they're trying to now stock up, get ready to go back to the Commonwealth to get the rest of the kids that they haven't found. And in Negan's case, wants to take down Pamela Milton because, Negan going to Negan. He has this one scene with Maggie where he's trying to say that, you and I could do this together. And Maggie's like, there is no we, they're still not quite there. They're never, I don't know. I can't say they're never going to be there because they have a spinoff show coming up, but Maggie's still not at that point with Negan yet. And then a very ominous scene where we see Maggie go over and hug Herschel and Negan with his pregnant wife. And I'm just looking at this going, man, if they kill Herschel and his wife and his baby, that's the only thing I can see as being a reason for Maggie and Negan alone to go together to go to New York in this Dead City show. But that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. We still got stuff to do in season 11. The whole crew gets on one of those Commonwealth trains. They're heading back to the Commonwealth. The one kid from earlier who defected, who, like I said last week, I guess he's part of our crew now. Sort of. He has a lot of information. He knows how to get into the Commonwealth and sneak in like they snuck into Alexandria. They're on the train and their princess is setting up the radio signal to talk to Mercer, who is back at the Commonwealth after rescuing Eugene, as we remember from the end of last week's episode. Mercer's got Eugene and Yumiko and reuniting with I never remember the girl's name. Stephanie, I think Eugene's girlfriend's name is. They had this reunion. But they're telling Eugene, you need to hide out here. You need to stay here. And, Mercer had a different plan. He's got getting troops on his side. They're going to take down Pamela Milton. They got the evidence and everything else. I'm like, none of this is going to work. There's not going to be any judicious ending to any kind of plot like this in The Walking Dead. So all this, I'm going to take her down politically stuff is not going to work. Plus telling Eugene to stay put, that wasn't going to happen anyway. But Mercer's going to back out playing the double agent thing, which he doesn't play too well because there's this other lady who's kind of eyeing him up. She's another soldier, and Pamela Milton's kind of, greasing greasing her palm behind the scenes and going like, keep an eye on Mercer, because Pamela's suspicious of Mercer. She doesn't believe that Eugene just escaped, and she's kind of, Pamela Milton is not a stupid woman. So she's got this other Commonwealth soldier looking after Mercer and watching him. We see this play out through the rest of the storyline. It does wind up with Mercer getting arrested by this Commonwealth soldier, but they've got bigger problems, which I will talk about later on. Boy, they got bigger problems. Meanwhile, we have this whole side story. Aaron and Luke and Jerry and Lydia and a bunch of the rest of them, they're all still in that Walker horde. Remember last week, I was commenting about how Lydia fell down and one of the walkers picked up a knife. So the Commonwealth soldiers, it turns out, they are ushering this horde, and they're leading this horde to the Commonwealth. And the reason they're doing this is because of all the uprising in the Commonwealth. Pamela Milton wants to get this horde to distract the people. Like, oh my God, there's a horde coming. We need you to protect us. It's an old trope that a lot. This is when the political stuff on The Walking Dead, I'm actually appreciating this, because this is kind of a thing that actually does happen all the time, that isn't too ham-fisted. But it is a strategy that happens a lot, that people who are weak leaders will manufacture a crisis so you will fear for your security and just go along with whatever they want to do. And that's what Pamela Milton's trying to do here. And it backfires on her and everyone else big time. The walkers, as we know, Aaron knows, all the crew walking with them doing the whisperer thing knows that these walkers are a bit different. And Aaron's been finding this out. I like how they've now tied that in there. Now it's all kind of coming together, and I kind of like the storyline now, how they had Aaron out on this kind of thing. And he's kind of leading this group. Doesn't go too well as they try to break off from this horde, because they know what's going on. They're being led to the Commonwealth. And as they try to break away and go into this trailer, the group gets separated. Luke and his girlfriend get pulled away. Isaiah, I think his name is Isaiah. I can't remember. Again, there's so many characters, it's hard to remember names. Lydia's boyfriend gets separated, and Lydia's trying to hold on to him, but as she's holding on to him, one of the walkers bites Lydia. I actually was shocked because, again, as I mentioned last week, they've been going so long now on The Walking Dead without really killing any major characters or even having any major characters have anything really bad happen to them. After 2 years of just kind of false alarms, we finally had something bad happen to a major character, and Lydia is a major character now. And she gets bit, and Jerry and Aaron pull her back into the RV, but the rest of the crew, Luke and Isaiah, whoever else, they're out there in that horde. So Lydia wants to go back out, but Jerry and Aaron are like, no, you're bit. We got to amputate. They chop the arm off. Lydia passes out. When she comes to, Aaron and Jerry are trying to reassure her that everybody's going to be okay, but she's not hearing it. So Jerry decides he's going to go out and looking for them and gives a very ominous, this is probably my final lines on the show kind of speech. And we're like, Jerry, no, do not kill Jerry. But The Walking Dead, again, major characters have not been killed off for a long time. And we expect the last episode, somebody's going to die that we love. Because again, at the core of the show, I've always said, it hasn't been this season, but the core of the show before the past season and a half of The Walking Dead has been about losing people you care about. And, Jerry looks like he might be on the chopping block. We'll find out in 2 weeks in the final episode, but he is out trying to save Luke and whoever else that's out there still on that horde. Meanwhile, back with the rest of our crew, they have snuck into the Commonwealth and they realize immediately something's off. And what had happened is Pamela Milton kind of suspected what was going on because Mercer was running interference as a double agent and pulled some soldiers from where our crew was going to come out at to sneak into the Commonwealth. Pamela Milton got wind of this and she kind of understood that, oh yeah, he's set me up. So she knew what he was doing and kind of set the trap for them and let them come in. And the crew goes into the main government hall, house, or whatever they call it. There's nobody there. Daryl knows something's up, and before they know it, they're ambushed. There's a bunch of guys with automatic rifles are shooting down on them. Everybody scatters. A couple people get killed. The guy who just joined our group, the former Commonwealth soldier, well, he's done. He's the first one shot. He's gone. A couple other people, get shot that we really don't know. Everybody's kind of hiding while we're firing back and we're fighting back. And then an unfortunate thing happens. Judith, who insisted on coming along, who insisted on living up to the legacy of her parents, The cool thing about this episode too with Judith is she actually, for the first time ever, mentioned Lori, her actual birth mother, and then she talked about her living mother, Michonne, and Carl, and Rick. Didn't mention Shane. I don't even think she knows she might not even know who Shane is. We never got to that with Judith, but she mentions them all at the beginning of the episode, and this is what her brother would want, this is what her father would do, this is what her mother would do, so she went along with them. Same way Carl used to go along on some stuff, but Judith, much like old Carl used to do, got herself in trouble, and much like her brother did, got herself shot. So she's trying to save Maggie because Pamela Milton decides she's going to pick up a gun and start shooting herself, and she shoots Judith. Let me put that again. She shoots Judith. So at that point, Daryl goes to rescue her. Everybody's pissed off, and they're just putting hellfire on Pamela and her people. But there's no resolution to this. They can't win this battle. So Ezekiel, this is a pretty cool scene. Ezekiel throws a fire extinguisher up, and Daryl, using Rick's gun, tracks it, shoots it, and creates a diversion, a mist, of course, for them to sneak out and then sneak into the streets. Meanwhile, Eugene, who's still in this hideaway house where he was supposed to stay, a soldier comes looking for him there. Eugene, going hardcore, takes out that soldier and then decides, screw this, I'm going to go out and try to help. He winds up with Yumiko. They wind up at the courthouse or wherever this place is, just in time for the rest of our crew to leave it, and they're all going through the streets, but there's big problems, as I said before. While all this is going on, the Walker horde that Pamela Milton is trying to use as a distraction from her political unrest, it's very interesting this is happening around election season too. they start climbing the walls of the Commonwealth, and the soldiers of the Commonwealth are seeing this and like, wait a minute, they're climbing the walls. One soldier gets murked right up on a wall by one of the climbing walkers, and all of the soldiers are shocked. We find out that like 50 of them get taken out very quickly. The walkers are now flooding in. The guy falls onto the switch that opens up the gates, and this entire horde starts flooding into the Commonwealth. Pamela Milton is stunned, and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And her little stooge soldier that stooged out on Mercer, she's like, we got to do something. Maybe we can bottleneck them here. And Pamela's like, no, forget that. We need to protect the rich people. I mean, Pamela Milton's become very one-dimensional. I mean, this is the thing that kind of happens. She wants to protect all the estates, all the rich people, and, let them go to the lower wards and kill the poor people. It's fine. Which is, the underlying theme that they've had throughout this entire season, even way back from those wall murals, way back at the beginning of season 11 that Daryl and them found down in the sewers. They eat the rich. It's been the theme of the entire season. She wants the soldiers to block off the streets to kind of lead the horde towards the lower places and then wipe them out. But, there's going to be thousands of people killed in the Commonwealth. But of course, she doesn't care about this. She just cares about saving her own hide and even asks for extra security around her mansion. If the word bitch ever applied to any female on this show, it definitely applies to Pamela Milton. Our crew, however, who is escaping, gets caught up in this, and they think that the Commonwealth troopers are coming after them when they realize the troopers are actually worried about the horde, and they get blocked off in this street, and there's only one escape through this alleyway, so they kind of need to fight their way through it. Meanwhile, Daryl's carrying Judith, who's pretty much done. We see that we get Luke and his girlfriend. They were in that Walker horde, joined up with the rest of the crew, and they all fight to give Daryl enough time to get Judith down this alleyway because she needs medical attention because she's been shot. And during this, a very interesting moment, Judith, who earlier mentioned to Daryl and Carol that, she hadn't talked to Michonne in a long time. Daryl said, I'm going to tell you all the stories we know about them and your brother and everything else. While he's carrying a shot Judith, who's in shock and delirious, she looks up at him and goes, Daddy? And, the look on Daryl's face was kind of like, oh, God, but he's just concerned about getting her to safety. And all hell has now broken loose, as we expected it to happen at the final episode of The Walking Dead. And that's how we leave. The trailers for the final episode show that there's going to be some speeches. There's going to be some zombie horde action. And basically, Daryl and Judith are somewhere in some hospital, and there's a quick shot of the both of them lying on the floor. Whether or not they're dead or not, I don't know, but something doesn't look good for some of our crew here. Now, going forward into the final episode, as far as people at risk, obviously, Elijah, I think his name is Elijah. Lydia's boyfriend's still at risk. Lydia is technically still at risk because sometimes chopping off a limb doesn't save you from a bite, especially she was carrying on for a while after she got bit. So maybe they didn't get it in time. We'll see about that. There is a scene that people have been kept talking about Rosita. Rosita has been suspected of dying this entire season. And there's a scene where she's trying to jump to Eugene and Gabriel that she might not make. So there's that there. People thinking that Rosita might meet her end. Of course, Judith has been shot. And Jerry has wandered out into the horde to look for Elijah. So, and any number of our other characters could get killed. I mean, it is the final episode of The Walking Dead ever. Again, as I mentioned before, the only major characters who have died in the last 2.5 seasons have been Sadiq and Aiden. So we're due for some shocking deaths in this final episode, and we all kind of expected it. I would be surprised and kind of disappointed, not to say that I want to see people get killed, but again, going to the theme of what the show is about, if this final episode, nobody dies, like if Rosita survives and Aaron survives and everybody who's in jeopardy survives, if nobody dies, that'll be, again, I think the show under certain leadership, there's certain things about the show that they have forgotten about, and but they did ratchet it up here and especially in this episode and the last episode where I actually thought that some of our characters were in jeopardy. Last week with Negan and his wife, thinking that somebody might die in that situation. And in this week with Jerry and with Lydia and with a couple other characters, Judith getting shot. Although I'm like, Judith's not going to die. Is she? I don't know. She might. You never know. But I'm interested now to see where this all goes. Of course, we still don't know anything about Rick. We just still don't know anything about the Silver Republic. All of this is coming up in 2 weeks. I believe it's either an hour and a half or 2-hour finale to the entire series, which at this point, me and a lot of fans are very skeptical about if we're going to get a lot of questions answered. There are a ton of questions about The Walking Dead that are not going to be wrapped up in the main series, which again, I think is a mistake. So I really don't get why they're ending The Walking Dead here, because it's not really ending, but that's all really semantics at this point. The end of the comic book adaptation of The Walking Dead, I think, is probably the most appropriate way to say this, is that the comic book adaptation of The Walking Dead is coming to an end, and we're going to now go off into some other stuff, whether it's going to be good or not. Time will tell. If it's anything like the most of season 11, I'm kind of worried, because again, outside of the last couple episodes, there was the one episode with the earlier episodes with the Reapers before we knew about them. Those were kind of cool. The episode with Connie in the haunted house with what's his face that we still haven't seen where the hell he is. Nigel or whatever he is, the guy that sent Michonne off to the island. I don't know. Tons of stuff. Where's Heath? Where is Rick? Where's Michonne? Where's Jadis? How does this tie to the CRM? Who's going to die? All of these questions, hopefully, I'm kind of doubting it, but hopefully they will be answered in 2 weeks in the ultimate finale of the Walking Dead comic book adaptation TV show. But I want to know what you guys thought about this. Did you check out this episode? Did you feel like I did that this felt more like an exciting episode? We're finally getting to something happening in this long ass season, or or have you checked out already and just like, I don't care, I just want to see Rick and Michonne, and if I don't see Rick and Michonne, this is all a waste of time. Let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Until next time, I will see you guys here for more news, rumors, and reviews of The Walking Dead final season right here on the Rantin Review Entertainment. Have a good day.